So before we actually install the aluminum soffit itself, we have to install a trim piece. This stuff is called F-trim. If you pull it all the way to the side here, you can see it looks like an F. And basically what this stuff does is we're gonna nail it to the wall of our building here, and then it's gonna create a little channel here to be able to put our soffit into. And then we'll be able to screw our soffit up into the edge of our subfascia board there. Then we're gonna have a piece of fascia that goes over our subfascia to finish out this edge. And then we'll have a nice finished aluminum soffit finish under there. So to be able to put this piece up first, basically we're gonna have to chalk a guideline all the way across our wall so we can make sure that this is straight. But I just wanted to comment on the right way to put this stuff on. So you can actually place it with this little tab here, the leg of the F, if you will. That's where we're gonna be nailing through. And it's okay to have it upside down. It's also okay to have it right side up to be able to nail. So the reason why I'm gonna keep it upside down is because we're actually, and it'll make a little bit more sense when we get to that point, we're actually gonna extend it beyond the wall. If you see, if you come around to the edge here, on this, the way I've kind of decided to finish this house is I have some soffit boxes here. So we have our roof framing coming down, these are our rafters, and I've made this little squared off box here to be able to make a little bit nicer looking finish. So in order for our soffit to come all the way out to the end here, we have to install this trim piece. It's gonna come up underneath this block all the way out to this edge. So by installing this upside down, basically what I'm doing with having this leg facing up, that nailing is gonna be above this finish part here, and you won't be able to see it. I'm also gonna have to trim off this part after it comes out past the wall. And again, it's gonna make a little bit more sense when we get there. But if I had it facing right side up, this tab would be facing down. I'd still be able to cut it off, but then I'd have an unfinished edge there that would be a little bit more difficult to cover up. So by having it upside down, I have a nice finished edge to bring past this, this 2x4 here. And it's just gonna look a little bit nicer. So I'm gonna jump up on the scaffold here and show you guys how to lay out this chalk line, and then we'll get started installing this trim. All right. So what you're gonna need is, to start out with, you'll need a framing square. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna, this soffit is gonna sit nice and perpendicular to our wall here. So we have a nice square, which creates a perpendicular edge. We're gonna run it against our wall here and run it all the way up so it just touches our subfascia board. And then we'll be able to snap a line here. So I'll make a little mark right where that corner is. And then I like to make a mark in the middle. It's just to kind of check how close we are. This will make a little more sense in a minute. But then I'll come to this edge as well and make a mark right at the corner here. So what I'm gonna do is take a chalk line here and connect both of my lines. Okay, I'll snap this line. And now that's given me a guideline here to be able to install this trim. So the reason why I made that center line here, I just wanted to see how close we are with our chalk line from side to side. And it looks like our chalk line is right on that line that we made here. And the reason why I did that is basically we're checking the straightness of our fascia board. If I found out that pencil mark that I made was a 1/4 inch higher, or a 1/4 inch lower, or even worse, like 3/4 of an inch higher or lower, then I would know that this fascia board is kind of bowed or dipped in the middle. And if we had that, the issue would to be either to replace the fascia board and make it straight, or if that's not an option, if it's just an older home and everything's settled and we're kind of stuck with an unstraight fascia board, what you can do is you would take this middle measurement here. Let's say we dropped a 1/4 inch, and we would want to try to raise up an 1/8 inch. We'd split that dimension in half to kind of cheat it. So it would look a little bit more straight. So basically we would be an 1/8 inch low, or an 1/8 inch high on that side. We'd be an 1/8 inch low here, and then an 1/8 inch high on the other side. If we didn't make that adjustment, this middle would be an 1/8 inch low, or sorry, a 1/4 inch low, and that would be a lot more noticeable if we didn't kind of cheat both sides. So that's just a real quick tip to kind of break up your whole distance and just make sure that your fascia board's running straight. All right, so now that we have our guideline here, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna jump down real quick. I'm gonna grab a piece of trim. And then I'm gonna start figuring out where I need to make a cut here. So I'm gonna flip this over. Again, I'm gonna want that nailing flange to be facing up. If we were just doing the wall here, let's say we had vinyl siding on here, and we were just going from corner post to corner post, I wouldn't care which way this nailing flange was, because we're gonna have the vinyl siding come up to it. It would cover that nailing flange and it wouldn't be a big issue. But again, we're gonna have our F trim here stick past all the way out here, all the way out to the edge here. But now this nailing flange is in the way of this blocking that we did for our soffit box. And then also, if the nail flange was down, it'd be sticking past our wall here. We'd have to cut it off. We're cutting it off anyway, but by flipping this upside down, basically this is leaving a nice finish edge here for our soffit. So I'm gonna bring this all the way out to the edge here. And then what I'm gonna do is just take a pencil and mark at the end of this 2x4 here. And now I know that I need to cut from this mark all the way out here and cut this nail flange off. And we can do that by just taking some tin snips here, running down a cut. And then I like to bend this back just to make it a little bit easier. And then we can run our tin snips along this back here and cut this flange off. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this flange off, and I'll measure out the other end and cut that nail flange off, and then we'll be ready to install this piece. Okay, so we got our trim piece here. We got our nailing flange cut off where it's gonna overhang the wall, and we're ready to start throwing this piece up. So what I'm gonna do here is come up to our line. I'm gonna bring this over, and then I'm just gonna check that this is nice and flush with our outside soffit box here. And then all I'm gonna do is follow my chalk line. And then I'm just gonna put one fastener in here. Typically, you would use some roofing nails, just because they're convenient and usually have a bunch of them. And they also have that flat head. But because for this demonstration we only did an 8-inch soffit, it's pretty difficult to get a hammer in there. So it's okay to use screws. It's just typically you use roofing nails. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this in place up to our chalk line. Okay, and I'm just gonna screw about every 12 inches or so, and that'll be plenty to keep this up here. Okay, I'll screw that off in a minute, but I just wanted to show you guys how we kind of take care of our edge here. So since we took off that nailing flange, this is basically just hanging here, but we still have to secure it. So what I do is I have these little pan head screws here, and I just go right up in through the top of our F-trim here and just nail to that 2x4, and that'll keep it up nice and tight. You just want to try to be nice and careful here. As you drill, it'll scratch off the paint on your F-trim here. So just take some time to keep that drill away from the F-trim and get those screws up in there nice and tight. Oop. All right, and then I'll do one on the end here. All right, so that's in place, and I'll finish nailing off about every foot here. And then I have one extra piece on the edge here because we didn't quite get all the way to the end with this one piece. So I went ahead and cut an extra piece that's gonna finish off our run here. And just wanted to show, I'll throw one screw in the end here to secure this. But for this F-trim, you don't have to, you don't have to overlap it at all. And then you can see that this extra piece, we can just butt it right into the edge here. And that seam there, as long as you get factory edge to factory edge, that'll create a nice seam there. But I do want to measure this here and cut off the excess. So I'm gonna butt it up nice and tight. Mark my distance here. And then just wanted to quickly show you how to cut this. If the nail flange was still on this, you could make one snip on that nail flange. Then you would come on both of these legs of the F, if you will. Go ahead and snip that. And now, instead of trying to get your tin snips in there, you're just gonna mangle that all up. All you have to do is just kind of bend it back and forth, and it'll snap right off. And then you have a nice clean cut. So don't try to get your snips in there. And then what you can do is just finish screwing this off here, and then this run will be ready to go. All right, so one important thing to mention, this F-trim has basically the top and bottom legs of the F are at different lengths. So whenever you're butting up a piece, it's important to make sure that you have the same size legs up next to each other. Otherwise, you'll have an 1/8 inch offset here, and that just won't look as nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this all screwed into place, and then we'll be ready to start the soffit. Okay, we got our front piece of F-trim on here. It's all screwed off. So then I wanted to come around to the gable side here and kind of show you guys how we tackle the side. So the front's very straightforward. It's one straight piece. But to do the gable end properly and make it look nice, you gotta kind of have a few more different cuts. So kind of looking up here, what we'll do is our soffit is gonna come down and then it needs something to run into. So basically, the way we do that is we basically cut the F trim at a 90-degree angle and bend it over and create another slot for it to come all the way out to the end of the soffit box. And then it's gonna run all the way up our edge here. And then instead of cutting it at the top, we make another little fancy cut for it to bend, and then it starts coming down the other edge. So I actually went ahead and pre-cut a piece here to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So what's gonna happen here is this part here is gonna go all the way up to the peak of our gable, and then we have it coming all the way down our edge, and then we have that part that bends back for it to end on the soffit box. So I'm gonna talk about a few of these cuts here. So what I did was, just like on our front trim, I cut off that nail flange because it would be showing otherwise, so I went ahead and cut it off. And basically what the goal of this cut is to be able to bend it 90 degrees and then have a nice miter in the corner. That's a real nice finished look. What some people do is they cut it off flush at the end and then try to butt up another piece to it. But then you have two ends that are just kind of flapping there and aren't really connected. So if you keep it as one piece and then just bend it over, one, you can make a nice miter here, and two, it's one piece and it'll stay together nice. So again, I just cut off that nail flange. I measured from the side of the wall all the way out to the end of the soffit box up there, and that's this measurement here. And what I did then is I just drew a perpendicular line, and then drew a perpendicular line, and I cut perpendicular to our piece. Then I made a nice 45-degree line and cut the top and bottom one off. So now when you actually bend this over and bend it 90 degrees, it creates that miter. So that's just a nice cut to be able to dress that bottom up. Now this top cut, basically what I did was I held this piece up there and then measured from the corner of our soffit box all the way up to the peak of the roof, and then transferred that mark to this piece here. And what I did was I sliced the back, the nail flange all the way up, and then the back of the F all the way down. And then I did a 45 going into the cut and a 45 coming away from the cut. So essentially, that just takes away that nailing flange there, and it lets you be able to come in, cut the back of this F part. And then you can carefully just kind of start the bend, and then once it creases, you'll be able to bend it to that 90-degree angle. If you remember, our pitch of the roof is 12-12. So basically, this one's coming up at a 45, this one's coming up at a 45. That creates a 90-degree angle. And that's what we've created with this bend. So now that we have it in place here, or all of our cuts in place, we'll be able to come up on the ladder here. And if you noticed, just like the front, I held our framing square up against the wall and butted up to the soffit to get our marks for our chalk line. And we'll be able to run this piece along the chalk line. Also, you've noticed, or may notice, that I have this piece upside down again. It doesn't really matter because we have siding going on this wall, so it's going to be a little bit easier for me to nail this into place with that nail flange down. So I'm going to line it up with my chalk line here, and then I'm going to grab a nail. Get this drill out of the way. And then go ahead and nail this in place. Okay. Oops. All right, so I got one nail holding it there. So what I kind of want to do before I get this all nailed off is I just want to double check that my peak here lines up with the peak of the roof, which it looks like it lines up pretty well. And then I want to double check my bend down here to make sure that when I put this in place, come down here a little bit. When I put this in place, it creates a nice level line across here. Let's say I put this above my chalk line a little bit, it might be hanging down a little bit. Now this hangs up a little high and it's not straight. So if you can get it right on your chalk line and bend it across to where it's gonna land, looks nice and level, and we can go ahead and screw this in place. I'm gonna use some machine screws just like I did on the other side there, and just put one right in this little corner. Screw that up into there. All right, so now that that corner's secure, I'll go ahead and nail off the rest of this flange, bring that part up to my chalk line on the other side, and then I can butt up another piece factory edge to factory edge to this part, make that same 90-degree cut on that side, and finish off this gable end.